So picture this. Imagine you build a country, pretty much from the ground up. You manage to create a stable democracy, you hold peaceful elections, you even have your own currency and passports. But for over 30 years, the rest of the world just kind of pretends you don't exist. That's the incredible puzzle of Somaliland, a country that's basically hiding in plain sight in the Horn of Africa. And really, their whole story makes you ask a super fundamental question. What actually makes a country a country? I mean, is it about having borders and a government? Or is it just about getting other countries to agree that you exist? That one question right there is what this whole explainer is about. You know, by almost any practical measure, Somaliland really looks and acts like a country. While its neighbor, Somalia, was unfortunately descending into chaos, Somaliland was busy doing the opposite. They were building a nation. Just look at this list. They've got all the things we think of when we think of a state. A stable government, their own money, the whole deal. On paper, it looks like they've aced the test. And yet, here's the paradox. Despite doing all of this, not one single country in the entire world officially recognizes it. So Somaliland is stuck in this bizarre political limbo. It's a country in practice, what they call de facto, but it's not a country in law, or de jure. To understand how that's even possible, we need to jump in the time machine and rewind the clock. Now, the history here is absolutely critical. And it's because this is not a simple story of a region breaking away from a country. No. Think of it more like a story about dissolving a marriage, a voluntary union between two separate countries that eventually decided, you know what, this isn't working out. Just check out this timeline. For 5 short days back in June of 1960, Somaliland was a fully independent country. It was even recognized by dozens of other nations. But then it made this huge, fateful decision. It voluntarily decided to unite with its neighbor, the former Italian Somaliland, to create this brand new Somali republic. But that dream of unity soured really fast. It led to marginalization and eventually a horrific civil war. So in 1991, when the whole central government in the south collapsed, Somaliland's leaders basically just hit the undo button. They declared that union was over and that they were reclaiming the independence they'd willingly given up 30 years before. And if you look closer, that split was almost guaranteed to happen. The two states that tried to merge in 1960 had almost nothing in common. I mean, they were the products of two totally different colonial powers, Britain and Italy. That meant they had different legal systems, different ways of running things, even different school systems. It was a political marriage that had friction right from day one and was, let's be honest, probably doomed from the start. So they took back their independence. But does their claim actually hold water? Does it meet the official legal definition of what a country is supposed to be? Well, let's run it through the official statehood test and see. The gold standard for this stuff is something called the Montevideo Convention of 1933. It's pretty much the closest thing we have to an official, legal checklist for what makes a state a state. And it all boils down to these 4 main criteria you see here. So, how does Somaliland stack up against the rulebook? Well, the answer is remarkably well. A permanent population? Check. They definitely have that. A defined territory based on those old colonial borders? Check. A functioning government? Absolutely, and it's been stable since 1991. The ability to interact and make deals with other countries? Check. So, legally speaking, the case for Somaliland being a state is, well, it's rock solid. And this wasn't just a decision made by a few people at the top. This quote here is key. They held a massive referendum back in 2001, which international observers said was fair and open. And it confirmed that there was overwhelming public support for independence. So we're not just talking about a political claim. This is a democratic mandate straight from the people themselves. Okay, so if Somaliland passes the legal test with flying colors, what's the holdup? Why isn't this a done deal? Well, the answer is that the roadblock isn't a legal one anymore. It's political. And this is where things start to get really messy. As it turns out, it's a whole mix of things that have kept Somaliland in this weird limbo for decades. You've got international confusion, the ongoing chaos in the region, and even these hidden foreign interests all playing a part. A huge piece of the puzzle is just a simple misunderstanding. A lot of countries, particularly in Africa, hear Somaliland and they immediately worry that it's a secessionist movement that could spark copycats everywhere. But Somaliland's argument is totally different. They keep saying they aren't breaking away from Somalia. They're ending the marriage that they chose to enter into way back in 1960. It's a dissolution, not a secession. Another one of the great ironies here is that all the chaos down in southern Somalia has completely overshadowed Somaliland's stability. The world has been so focused on the crisis in the south, it's totally ignored the success story that's been happening in the north. And on a practical level, I mean, who are you supposed to negotiate a divorce with when there's basically no one home in Mogadishu? And then you have what the source calls the invincible hands. These are other countries that have their own strategic reasons for keeping Somaliland unrecognized. And this quote from an Egyptian diplomat from 2004, wow, it says it all. It is stunningly blunt. He's basically saying that no matter what, for their own reasons, some powerful countries will simply never accept an independent Somaliland, period. So where does all this leave Somaliland? Well, it brings us to this simple idea called the banana test. The idea is, if something looks like a banana, smells like a banana, and tastes like a banana, then the chances are pretty good that it's a banana, right? Well, for Somaliland, failing that final political test has very real and very damaging consequences. Being unrecognized basically means you're locked out of the world system. Just imagine trying to build your country when you can't get a loan from the World Bank, or trying to grow your economy when international trade is a nightmare. Your diplomats aren't treated like diplomats, your athletes can't compete under their own flag. It really is like having the keys to a brand new car, but you're not allowed to put them in the ignition. This quote just captures the whole dilemma perfectly. By every logical measure, by that banana test, Somaliland is a state. It's a banana. But as the quote says, in this strange world of politics and diplomacy, what you see isn't always what you get. Simple logic can be overruled by power and by interests. And so that leaves us right back where we started. When a place passes the test of statehood, but fails the test of politics, what does it even mean to be a country? For the people of Somaliland, that's not some abstract philosophical question. It is the reality they live with every single day.